All right, everyone, before we begin, I have to warn you up front. This story is entirely true. Unfortunately, it's also quite long. It starts from my childhood, but it didn't really get scary until recently. Now, I'm completely consumed by terror. I'm an adult man, rational and intelligent, at least I'd like to believe so. Yet, here I am, sitting on my bed, scared out of my wits, goosebumps covering my entire body, tears of horror streaming down my cheeks. I need your help to explain this terrifying ordeal. Fair warning, you'll hear me swear quite a bit in this story. I want you to know that what you're about to read is a situation felt by my mind. I always thought I was a very rational person, but I cannot explain these occurrences in any natural way. Since my mother got a new job and started making new friends in my country, it's very normal for friends to visit each other's homes, drink coffee, eat cakes, and chat. A few weeks after starting her new job, my mother befriended a woman named Rose. Rose would come to our house about twice a week, and they'd sit around the coffee table on the balcony, talking. One day, when I was 17, I was also sitting on the balcony with them. I'm not sure why I was there, but knowing me, I probably ran out of internet access. Back then, in my country, we bought internet by the hour each month, and I was bored to death. So we sat there, they were chatting about something, and my mother got up to get some cake she'd just baked. I remained at the table with Rose, and that's when my life changed forever. Rose was a good-looking woman. She was about 56, slender, with long black hair and bright white teeth, overall an attractive woman. However, as I sat with her, she turned to look at me. Her smile was strange. Her bright red lips with white teeth underneath made the smile look even more unsettling. Her head moved slowly, almost as if she were a puppet. She said something in the lowest possible tone, definitely not loud enough for me to understand. "Excuse me, what did you just say?" I asked, not yet scared, just a little weirded out. "Are you ready to go, child?" she said, in the voice of a child. I'm not kidding, it was like the voice of an 8-year-old girl. The smile was still there. She uttered the words through gritted teeth, without opening her jaw at all. "What?" I asked again, starting to feel scared. "Are you ready?" The same phrase again. This time, she pulled an orange from her purse. That was it. She pulled it out and held it. She didn't offer it to me, nor did she eat it. She just held that damn orange. By this point, I was terrified. Luckily, my mother returned with a plate of cake. Rose, almost as if someone had pressed a remote control button, instantly returned to normal, placing the orange back in her purse without my mother noticing. I left the balcony, filled with dread, but because I was only 17, I quickly dismissed it. That night, I couldn't sleep. My room was on the ground floor, the window about 5 feet off the ground. I kept staring at it, praying I wouldn't see anything scary. I tossed and turned, glancing at the window every 5 minutes. It was late. I was starting to doze off, but decided to look at the window one more time. And she was there, standing right at the damn window. Rose stood perfectly still, looking straight at me. The moonlight was bright enough for me to see clearly, with that familiar smile on her face. Blood-red lipstick, unnaturally white teeth. I was frozen stiff with fear. I often imagined what I'd do in situations like this, always having an escape plan for any hypothetical scenario I could think of. But now, with my mother's friend staring through my bedroom window at 4 a.m., just smiling, I was completely immobile. My mouth was dry, goosebumps covered my entire body, they still do, even as I recount this, and I swear my room suddenly turned ice cold. Perhaps it was just my body reacting to the shock. Finally, I mustered enough courage to stand up. I started walking towards the door. Her head turned with me slowly, still with that smile, as if she were a puppet. I wanted to scream, to call my parents, but knowing their sensitive nature, I didn't want to cause immediate panic. There had to be a logical explanation, right? For some reason, I decided to walk closer to the window and ask her what the hell she was doing. I slowly took 2 steps, then froze. I froze because she had moved. And you know what she did? She pulled the orange out of her purse. Does anyone know the record for the longest time having goosebumps? Because I swear mine didn't go away, even though I was scared to death. I decided to move forward. I'm a big guy, I thought if there was a fight I could hold my own. My window opened by sliding up. I opened it about 10 inches and stopped. She didn't move, just held the damned orange and looked at me with the most terrifying smile you could imagine. I stood there, she stood there. Then she started to lean down, but all her movements were slow, mechanical. She leaned down just enough to reach the open window gap. I panicked. She pushed her head through the opening, just enough for her head to fit. "Can you come with me now?" she said in that 8-year-old child's voice. As she spoke, her hand reached through the gap, still holding the orange. What do you think I did? Exactly what you would do. I ran. I ran out of my room, screaming for my dad. My dad is a very light sleeper. He shot out of bed and yelled back, asking what the hell was going on. All I could say was, "Rose, the window." While my dad was putting on his pants, I ran back to my room, hoping Rose would still be there for him to see that I wasn't crazy. You know how in horror movies, when the witness returns, the scary person has vanished? The same thing happened, except I saw Rose leaving. About 300 feet from my house, there's another house with motion-sensing lights. Where I live, there's a lot of crime. I saw the lights come on, and I caught a glimpse of Rose vanishing behind that house. By the time my dad rushed into my room, she was gone. After some talking, my dad decided it was just a nightmare. He told me to only call him if someone actually entered the room. "It's just your damn imagination," he said as he walked away. Needless to say, I didn't get a minute of sleep that night. Nothing happened for the next few months. Rose still visited my mother, but I always made sure I wasn't home. Out of sight, out of mind, like any other teenager. My life was busy with all sorts of things, and I gradually forgot about the terrifying incident involving Rose. Then one day, I spent the entire afternoon browsing online. Unfortunately, Reddit wasn't around back then. I started feeling hungry, so like any spoiled kid, I yelled from my room for my mom. She didn't answer. Well, damn. I guess I'd have to go down to the kitchen and make myself a sandwich. My kitchen opens into the living room, but you have to walk into the middle of the kitchen to see the living room. I opened the kitchen door and walked in. I stopped dead in my tracks. Right there on the kitchen counter, an orange. My first thought, that terrifying night. Rose is here. I stood motionless for a few seconds, then realized how stupid I was to associate a common fruit with a crazy stalker. So I walked to the counter, intending to put the orange back in the fruit bowl. I picked up the orange and heard a voice behind me. "Soon, child, you will have to come with me." The child's voice, it was Rose. I made some sound like a terrified pig about to be slaughtered. In a flash, I spun around. She stood there in the middle of the living room, just standing still, with that familiar smile, blood-red lipstick, gleaming white teeth. She began to tilt her head to the left slowly, as if moving in slow motion. I remember it so clearly as if it happened yesterday. Her long black hair fell over her shoulders. A white summer dress. Bright red shoes to match her lipstick. She was very pale. Even in summer, she didn't seem to be friendly with the sun. This only added to her creepiness. A woman who had once terrified me stood there, alone in the middle of my living room, ghost pale, thick red lipstick, head tilted to the side, speaking in a child's voice. Then, damn it, she pulled an orange from her purse. She slowly drew it out, looking at me as if she wanted me to take it. Just as I was about to go into self-preservation mode, either run away or tackle this madwoman, my mother walked in. I know it didn't really happen, but it felt like my mother brought light into the room. I breathed a sigh of relief. Rose, of course, returned to normal. They were about to go out for a walk, and my mother was changing in her room while Rose glared hateful daggers at me. My parents didn't believe anything I told them about her. I didn't know what to do. At that age, perhaps I could only do nothing, but I swore I would punch that woman in the face if she ever came near me again. A year passed without incident. I was preparing to go to America for college, as I would be playing basketball there. I needed to train thoroughly. I spent the entire summer at a training camp about 40 miles from home. On the last night at the training camp, it finally happened. My roommate had left the camp the day before, so I had the entire room to myself. I was very excited because I was going to America in a few days, so it was hard to sleep. My room had a nice balcony. I was on the 3rd floor of the hotel. Since it was warm, I decided to go out on the balcony and sit for a bit. I stepped outside, sat down, and immediately regretted it. "Now, child, it's truly time for you to go." That voice. Although I hadn't heard it in a long time, something like that haunts you forever. I turned my head to the right, and Rose was standing on the railing of the next-door balcony. Note, not standing on the balcony floor or sitting at a table, but standing on the railing. I don't understand how she kept her balance. The balcony was at least 50 feet off the ground, and she was holding the orange. The damned orange. But this time, the orange looked somewhat rotten, not as bright as before. I was afraid she would try to jump onto my balcony. The distance between the two balconies was only a few steps. I was also afraid that if she fell and died, I would somehow be blamed. I didn't understand what the hell was going on. "It's really time now," she said in that child's voice, never opening her mouth, teeth still gritted, and those blood-red lips. This time, she looked even paler, her head tilted sharply to the left. She wore red shoes. "What the hell do you want from me?" I yelled in desperation, both angry at this woman for causing me so much distress and hoping someone would hear and come witness this madwoman's harassment. "I just want you to go where you belong," she said, again without opening her mouth, just bringing the orange closer to me as if offering it. "Get the hell out of here, you crazy bitch." I opened my room door, and as I stepped inside, I heard, "You will go." I slammed the door shut, deciding she was schizophrenic. I should have been more panicked, but I was leaving the continent in a few days and thought I'd be safe. Wrong. This is the shortest, condensed version of this terrifying chain of events. I came to America and have been here for 7 years. I forgot everything and moved on with my life. The only time I thought about Rose was when talking to my mother. She said that after I left, her friendship with that woman fell apart. I was very glad. The past 7 years have been the best of my life. I got my bachelor's and master's degrees, have an amazing girlfriend. Life is good, right? But then that damn thing happened. I'm a tech enthusiast and I love Apple. Don't throw stones at me for this. Last Friday, September 21st, the day the iPhone 5 was released, I stood outside the store with about 50 other people. I stood in the cold rain for 4 hours. Finally, the doors opened. We started moving slowly inside. I looked across the street and immediately froze. People bumped into my back, complaining, but everything sounded distant to me. Across the street, I saw a woman in a white dress, head tilted, holding something orange. The smile was still there, lipstick so red I could see it clearly from across the street. I couldn't move. Someone from far behind pushed forward, causing me to stumble. As I scrambled to my feet, I saw the woman disappear around the corner. I sat there for a few minutes, regained my composure, and walked into the store, got my phone. I decided to cross the street, and there, where she had stood, was only a horribly crushed, rotten orange. That's all, a rotten orange. I started to cry. All the memories rushed back. I thought I would be stalked by this madwoman my entire life. And how did she find me? I was half a world away. I spent the next few hours at a nearby coffee shop, drinking tea and trying to find a rational explanation. Did she track my Facebook? Or my friends? Did she come here to harm me? What did she want from me? Unable to answer any questions, I went home, deciding to keep everything to myself. My girlfriend noticed I wasn't doing well over the next few days, but didn't press. I convinced myself it was all just a trick of my mind. It must have been from staying up all night, the rain. How could I have seen clearly? And the orange was just a coincidence. I told myself I was just imagining things. I received a letter today. I usually get a lot of mail, so this wasn't unusual. But among them was an envelope with no return address. I opened it and was immediately stunned. Inside was a Polaroid photo. The photo showed me standing in line outside the store last Friday, but the photo was taken by someone standing behind me. It was the moment I looked across the street. I recognized it instantly because I could see the fear on my face. On the back of the photo, there were a few words written in black pen. "Come with me now, child." I dropped the photo and started sobbing like a child. I cried uncontrollably. My girlfriend found me in the room, curled up on the bed, still crying. She was terrified, thinking someone close to me had died because she had never seen me shed a tear before. I was forced to tell her. I recounted the story, omitting most of the details to get straight to the point. As I spoke, she grew paler and paler. She didn't say a word. When I finished, she looked ghost-white, motionless. Then she asked a question that almost made me faint. Did this woman, was she holding an orange? I was speechless. She started crying like I've never seen anyone cry before. Update, asterisk today, this damn thing happened again, but this time I didn't see her. Here's a quick rundown. 9:00 a.m. My girlfriend and I went to the local police station. We told them everything we knew and showed them the Polaroid photo. While very friendly, they said they couldn't do much beyond filing a restraining order if they knew the person's identity. They thought I was mistaken or the photo was just a prank. They took the photo and opened a file to monitor the situation. 1:00 p.m., we went to the location where I saw her. There was nothing there. I don't know what I expected anymore. 6:30 p.m., we returned home. The front door was open, not unusual since we live with 5 other people. However, our room was also open. This had never happened before because we always keep our door locked. I called out, asking if anyone was home. No one answered. As we walked into the room, we froze. The room is quite small, with 2 large beds pushed together and a small dresser. The sight before us: pillows stacked on the dresser, towels on the bed sheets pulled off and spread on the floor. In the middle of the sheets was an orange, cut in half with some peel next to it. My laptop was facing the door, playing Toto's Africa on repeat. My laptop had been off and password protected. The computer wallpaper had been changed to a childhood photo I didn't even have saved on my computer. Now it's evening. We called the police. They arrived after 15 minutes. Before they arrived, I managed to take 5 photos of the scene. 8:00 p.m., the police left, saying they would investigate but advised us to stay with friends if possible. We spent the next few hours just sitting and talking, trying to understand what was happening. Both of us are mentally and physically exhausted. Tomorrow, I'll Skype with my mom to see if she knows anything. I'll write my girlfriend's story tonight, but I might have to post it tomorrow morning if I don't finish in time. I promise to post the photos I took. Oh God, this damn thing is happening to me. I know I've been slow in telling my girlfriend's story, but as you read my latest update, you'll understand why I've been caught up in what's happening to us. Since last night's incident, nothing else unusual has happened. This morning, the police called to check on us. They still have no leads to start with. Let me tell you a bit about us. As I said, I was born in Bosnia, then moved to another country in the Balkans where I grew up. I came to America over 6 years ago. My girlfriend was born in India, grew up in Kenya until she was 3, then moved to Canada. We met over a year ago and have been together ever since. Lila, let's call her that, has actually had a few encounters with Rose. The first one she remembers was on a plane. Lila was a flight attendant for Air Canada for a few years. One day, about 6 years ago, she was working on a routine flight but doesn't remember the destination. The flight was about 2 hours long. When the plane took off and the seatbelt sign turned off, she started serving complimentary drinks. Halfway through her section, she encountered Rose. Of course, at the time, she didn't know it was Rose. Lila said there was something very odd about this woman. She had an eerie smile on her face, pale skin, and kept staring at her. When Lila offered her drinks and snacks, she received no answer, just a wider, creepier smile. Then Rose spoke. "I have something for you," she said, in a voice that was unnatural for a woman her age. Her voice sounded more like a teenager than an adult. There was something both playful and horrifying in her tone. Lila had seen enough working as a flight attendant, so she wasn't surprised by this interaction. "Oh really? What is it, ma'am?" "Don't pretend to be polite with me, you bitch." The phrase shot out like lightning, her teeth still clenched as she spoke. The smile didn't change. Lila immediately recognized this as a red flag. When passengers become aggressive, flight attendants retreat unless there's physical contact. "All right, and enjoy your flight." "I have this for you," she whispered, pulling an orange from behind her back, face unmoving, voice still like a 12-year-old. "No, thank you." Lila decided to end the conversation and walk away. "But you should take it. Someday, you know, someday." That was it. Lila gave her a look of contempt and walked away. The woman didn't bother her again on that asterisk flight. A few days later, Lila returned home and didn't think much about what had happened. When her mother asked about the flight, Lila smiled and said, "It was fine, except for one crazy lady." Her mother wanted to know more, so Lila began recounting the story. When she mentioned the word orange, her mother started to cry. Lila was stunned. It was time for a story. It turned out that when my girlfriend was a child in Kenya, she repeatedly woke her parents with loud cries. When they entered her room, they found an orange placed next to her in her crib. but everything in the house was locked: windows, doors, everything. This happened so many times that they decided to move her crib into their bedroom and install a security camera. On Lila's third birthday, that morning, when they woke up, they found an orange on her chest. They were utterly terrified. They called the police, and the police reviewed the video from the camera. The camera clearly showed a woman opening the locked front door, entering the room, placing the orange on Lila, and standing there for an entire hour, just standing there, head tilted to the left, staring at her. At this point, it goes without saying that Lila was completely terrified. Her mother wasn't much better. However, to continue the story, Lila's parents didn't know what to do. The police couldn't find the mysterious woman, and no security measures, short of hiring a 24/7 bodyguard, which they couldn't afford, were enough. Some of their family members had settled in Canada and encouraged them to move. This incident was the final push. They left Kenya, leaving behind that creature with the orange, until the day she met her again on the flight. After that conversation, Lila was completely distraught for several days. She didn't eat much, didn't interact with anyone. After a while, she gradually got better. No more signs of the horror occurred, so she began to believe it was all just a strange coincidence, and she continued with her life. She didn't see Rose again for many years. Her last encounter with Rose was a month before she met me. Lila had taken many transatlantic flights. She loved those flights: long trips, decent income, and the chance to see the world. She had everything she wanted. A month before I met her, Lila was returning from a flight to Hong Kong. I think she flew to Toronto. She was asleep, so I'm not entirely sure, but I believe it was Toronto. The crew stayed at a pretty nice hotel. Everyone had their own room. Lila was on the third floor. At the time, she liked to drink and had quite a bit that night. She passed out around 1 a.m. Around 4 a.m., she heard a knock on the door, then another knock and another. But these knocks weren't loud or fast. No, they were slow and soft, but loud enough to wake her up in her drunken state. She stumbled out of bed, thinking it might be one of her colleagues. Without thinking much, she opened the door and Rose stood there. Lila said that the only light in the room at that time came from the television, which was on. That light illuminated Rose's face, shining on her terrifying smile, glinting off her unnaturally white teeth, her blood-red lips, and her pale white skin. Her head was tilted to the side. You know that feeling when you're drunk and something scary happens, like an accident or the police, and you instantly sober up? That's exactly how it was. Lila could only let out a weak croak. They both stood there. Rose began to sway back and forth. Each time she swayed back, her red shoes, hidden under her white dress, were revealed. The sound of grinding teeth was distinctly audible. Then she pulled an orange from behind her back. "What do you want from me?" Lila pleaded. Rose kept swaying, maintaining her smile. "Please, leave me alone. I have nothing for you." "You take it now. He will take it too," Rose said in her familiar teenage voice, but this time it was a little more joyful, like a happy child. Unsure if Lila's self-preservation mechanism kicked in, but she snatched the orange and threw it hard over Rose's head, screaming, "Get out of here. Take this damn thing with you, you crazy bitch." That was the first time both Lila and I had seen Rose lose her smile. The white teeth vanished behind her deep red lips. Her slightly tilted head returned to its natural position. "I will see you both soon," Rose said in an adult voice, and this voice was much scarier than the teenage voice. Lila said it was because this voice sounded real, like a normal human being making a conscious threat. Of course, at the time, Lila didn't know me and didn't understand who the two people Rose was referring to were. She assumed Rose might be talking about her mother. This brings us to the present. As you read in the previous update, our room was broken into by Rose. That's the logical assumption. We took photos of the scene before the police arrived. The photos will be posted today. Some items in the room had been moved. We were scared to death and didn't know what was happening. I will video call my mom soon to see if she knows anything. Lila will also talk to her mom. I'm truly shocked by these developments. Before, I never believed something like this could happen. Honestly, if any of you had written this story, I wouldn't have believed a word, and I don't blame you if you don't believe me. But if any of you have any ideas about what this is, I'm ready to listen. I guess this could be some kind of cult, but what's messing with my head is that Rose knew my girlfriend even before I met her. Everything up until now could be logically explained, but this has taken it to a bizarre, supernatural level. Were they trying to bring us together? How did they do that? And more importantly, why? For what damn purpose? It's too much. It's truly overwhelming. Update summary, asterisk. 9:00 a.m. I went to the local police station with my girlfriend. We told them everything we knew and showed them the Polaroid photo. Although quite friendly, they said they couldn't do much beyond potentially filing a restraining order against someone who, according to them, was no longer in the country. They thought I had mistaken someone else for Rose, and the Polaroid was probably just a prank. They took the photo and opened a file in case the situation became more serious. And then it really did become serious. 1:00 p.m., we went to the town where I saw Rose to the location, but there was nothing there. I didn't know what I expected either. We stayed there for a while, then went home. 6:30 p.m., we arrived home. The main door was open, but this wasn't too unusual as we live with 5 other housemates. We went upstairs to our room. The door was open. This has never happened because we always lock our door very carefully. Only the landlord has a spare key. I yelled out, asking if anyone was there. There was no reply. The whole house seemed empty. We walked in. We froze. Our room is quite small, consisting of 2 queen beds pushed together and a small dresser. That's it, and what did we see? Pillows stacked on the dresser, towels left on the bed, sheets stripped off and spread on the floor. In the middle of the sheets was an orange, cut into 2 halves with some orange peel next to it. My laptop, facing the door, was playing a single song on repeat. This laptop had previously been turned off and was password protected. The song playing was my favorite childhood song, Africa by Tote. The wallpaper on the screen had been changed to a photo from my childhood that I don't even have on my computer. Now it's evening. We called the police. They arrived after 15 minutes. I managed to take about 5 photos of the scene before they arrived. They said they would start an investigation, but stated that it wasn't yet serious enough for fingerprinting or anything like that. 8:30 p.m., they left and told us to call them back if anything else happened, also advising us to stay with friends if possible. We spent the next few hours just talking, trying to figure everything out. Both of us are exhausted, both mentally and physically. I will Skype with my mom soon to see if she knows anything. Lila will also talk to her mom. My God, this is truly happening to me. Hello everyone, I promised an update and to provide photos, so here's all the latest information I can share. Rose hasn't reappeared since the break-in last night. The police called to check in this morning and advised us to remain vigilant. If any incidents occur, report them immediately. I spoke with my mom via Skype, but the results weren't great. She only knew Rose as a normal person. She doesn't even remember Rose asking much about me. She never suspected Rose could be a dangerous person. Now, my parents are very worried. I'm not sure if they think I'm paranoid or if they're genuinely scared for my safety. Lila hasn't been able to reach her mom. Her mom is in England. We've talked a lot. Both of us believe it's highly likely this is the work of some kind of cult, as neither Lila nor I believe in spiritual phenomena. The most perplexing thing is how Rose knew both of us before we even met. I've received many messages asking about this, and here's the story. Last summer, I was out with my best friend at a club. After the club closed at 1 a.m., everyone gathered outside to talk. At that moment, an older man approached and openly flirted with me. I'm not homophobic, but he was too persistent, making me uncomfortable. Just then, I heard Lila's voice. I realized some might think the man was part of some cult trying to force Lila and me together. But for that to happen, it would still require willingness from both of us. So I doubt this conspiracy theory. Currently, Lila is in a very bad mental state. She's scared and jumps at every little sound. I don't know how to help. I'm also very scared but try to appear strong so she has someone to lean on. Some of you have said this story is fake. I'll say this, I am fully aware that what I'm telling sounds unbelievable, and that's why I'm posting it here. Many of you have helped with advice and empathy, and I deeply appreciate that. For those who don't believe, you can view this story as a poorly written piece of fiction. I never said it was good, just that it's true. If you think the story about my baptism is relevant to this, I'll find time to tell it. However, I need you to understand that we are going through a lot right now. Thank you for your patience. Update about the photos I took, *, I took a few photos before the police arrived. After they left the orange, I discovered there was something carved or written on its peel. I also took photos of it. From the bottom, I can read OTOR, which means open in my language. From the top, I can't read it. I don't know what to do with this orange. I'm still keeping it for now, but I'll probably throw it away soon. Hey, honey, what are you doing? I turned around and saw her sitting on a nearby chair with two of her girlfriends. I realized she was saving me from an awkward situation. I immediately told the man, "Excuse me, my girlfriend is waiting," then walked over and sat with Lila. The man didn't believe we were a couple and kept asking questions, but Lila and I coordinated so well that he eventually left. That night, Lila and I kissed. She only stayed in town for 2 days, but promised to return to see me 2 weeks later. She came back, and we've been together ever since. If anyone can help shed some light on what's happening, I would be very grateful. At this point, the Polaroid photo is currently at the police station, but a police contact of mine said that if no further incidents occur in the next few days, I can go and ask for a copy if I really want one. That's all the information for now. Edit, asterisk, I've blurred a portion of the last photo to protect privacy, as it revealed my name. A sharp-eyed Reddit user spotted it and messaged me to warn me. New update, asterisk, I told my mom about what's happening, and she asked to see the photo. My mom recognized the person in the photo as a friend of hers from when I was a child, and the child in the photo is that friend's son. She doesn't know where this photo came from or that it was ever taken. My mom said she spoke to my grandmother, who is still living in Bosnia, and my grandmother seemed to know something. I'll have to call her tomorrow to find out more. Also, I'll upload the desktop background photo that someone put on my laptop. I'm still looking for the original files and/or hidden folders. Hello everyone. After many messages asking about the situation, I decided to update you on what's happening. First, here's a screenshot of the background photo that Rose or her group put on my laptop. I still haven't been able to find the original file or any hidden files related to it. The woman on the left is my mother holding me, and the woman on the right is my mother's friend holding my childhood friend. We don't know who the child on the left or the woman standing far behind is. None of them remember ever taking this photo. After I told my mom about what was happening, my mom spoke to my grandmother. She didn't say much, but my mom felt that she was worried after hearing the story. I decided to call her, and after much pleading, I heard this story from her. My grandmother was born in Croatia but grew up in Bosnia. She was the kind of child who played and explored everything around her whenever she was awake. Her favorite place to play was a river near where she lived. She usually went with friends, but one day, no one came with her. She decided to go anyway. She started building a sandcastle, her favorite game, when she heard someone call her name. She looked towards the nearby road, the only way for others to reach the riverbank, but saw no one. She shrugged and continued playing. Again, the voice called out, "Jenna!" She looked around, still nothing. "Jenna!" Startled, she ran up the road to see what was happening, but saw no one. Thinking her friends might be playing a trick on her, she returned to her sandcastle, and that's when she saw him. It was a man taller than average, about 6'5", nearly 2 meters, wearing a suit and a hat like the kind men wore in the 1930s. A black suit, white shirt, and black tie. He held a cane. The strange thing was, he was standing in the middle of the knee-deep water in his seemingly expensive suit. This was very confusing. My grandmother was stunned, but out of curiosity, she decided to approach to see what was going on. She walked to the water's edge, where small waves dissolved into the shore, and politely asked, "Yes, sir, what do you want?" "I have something for you." "Really? What is it?" As you might guess, this story unfolded in an unexpected way. It was an orange. My grandmother grew up in a well-off family, and even during tough economic times, she didn't lack fruit. So, an orange wasn't anything special to her. "Oh, thank you, sir, but I just had lunch. You can give it to someone else." No, Jenna. This one is specifically for you." He tilted his head to the side, and for a moment my grandmother thought his hat would fall into the river, but it didn't. He still held the orange in his other hand, extending it towards her. "But I don't want it." "You take it right now." My grandmother had been through a lot of terrible things in her life. World War II, the Bosnian War. She had seen terrible things, but she said she had never seen anything as terrifying as that man's face. She was a child then, and her imagination was vivid, but she swore that when he said that, the whites of his eyes, not his pupils, grew darker, and she could clearly see the anger on his face, even though he maintained a twisted smile. She started to run. She stopped and turned to see if he was chasing her. He just stood there, watching her. She said she saw his eyes gradually brighten again. He put the orange in his pocket, turned, and walked away through the river, step by step, with his cane, as if he were walking on the street. My grandmother was scared for a long time, but after a few years, he became a fading memory, rarely mentioned. She gave birth to my mother in 1960. It was a happy day because my mother was her first child. The birth went smoothly, but she was kept in the hospital for a few days. On the last night before being discharged, the man in the black suit returned. Nearly 20 years later. She was sleeping alone in her room. She woke up because the lights in the room came on. In horror movies, you hear sounds but see no one, then suddenly they jump out from behind. But that didn't happen. She opened her eyes and he was standing there, right in the middle of the room. It was the same man, same suit, same hat, not a day older than he was 20 years ago. In his hand, still an orange. "You've done well." "What do you want from me? What do you want? You brought her here. What do you want?" "You just need to take this and everything will be over." He held out the orange, smiling, not that crazed smile, but an almost friendly smile. "I don't want anything from you. Go away. No, I'll scream." That's when he did Rose's trick. He tilted his head to the side, gave the most horrible smile, revealing the brightest white teeth you've ever seen. He began to speak in the voice of a 10 to 12-year-old child. "But Jenna, you don't know. He will take it." When he said that in the child's voice, the smile vanished, his head returned to normal. He turned his back and left the room. Before leaving, he turned off the lights. My grandmother never told anyone about that man until I pressed her to. Over 30 years passed from the last time my grandmother saw him until the last time. That was during the war in Bosnia. The country was devastated by politicians who only wanted money. You know how wars happen. Anyway, times were very harsh. Food supplies were extremely limited. My grandparents sometimes went hungry for days. They even hunted pigeons on the balcony to eat. Things were that dire. But then, every day, an orange began to appear at their doorstep. An orange lying right in the middle of the welcome mat, and I remember its brightness compared to the gloom that surrounded everything. My grandmother threw all those oranges away. My grandfather was very confused, not understanding why she would throw away perfectly good food in such difficult circumstances, but she didn't give a reason until they appeared. Yes, asterisk they. The man in the black suit and Rose. The year was 1993. That day, their city was heavily bombed. No one dared stick their head out the window, let alone step onto the street. But my grandparents heard a knock on the door. They thought someone had finally come to help. They knew that if someone wanted in, they couldn't be stopped. They opened the door. On the left, the man stood there, old black suit, hat, and cane, still the same age over 50 years later. Beside him was a woman wearing red shoes, a white dress, long black hair, extremely pale skin, and lipstick so red it made you nostalgic for the gloom of wartime. She also tilted her head, giving an ear-to-ear smile. "Hello, Jenna," she said in a little girl's voice that my grandmother said could only belong to a very, very young child. "What the hell is this?" my grandfather immediately asked. Both of these people, I still call them people, lost their smiles and turned to look at him. "You'd better shut up," Rose said in her adult voice, or at least what my grandmother assumed was her natural voice. My grandfather had been shot, tortured, and starved, but he had never felt such fear. He choked and remained completely silent. Their smiles returned, head still tilted, bright white teeth exposed. "Where is it?" Rose asked in her child's voice. What do you want from us? We have nothing." "Don't do that, just tell us where it is." Rose seemed to be losing patience. "But Akko, your grandson." Her eyes seemed to pierce my grandmother's soul. My grandmother felt her blood run cold. He's not here, he's in Montenegro." She thought that whoever these people were, they would give up when they learned that her grandson, presumably me, had moved hundreds of miles away. They smiled wider if that was even possible. They turned almost in sync and walked away. My grandparents watched them leave from the balcony. Bullets flew, bombs fell everywhere, and they just walked through the streets, completely unconcerned. Heads still tilted. They could see they were still smiling. So I'll be the first to say it. Bullshit, 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 bullshit. This story is turning into a fairy tale. This can't possibly be real, man. Yes, I agree with you. If I read this story here or anywhere else, I'd enjoy it, then tell the author not to try to convince me to believe this nonsense. But this is real. I don't have any logical explanation for it. Are they a cult? Possibly. Why don't they age? Why are they everywhere? Why do they track everyone I know? I don't know. I've almost become numb to everything that's happening to me since the first story. Too much has happened or been discovered, leaving me so paralyzed that I almost don't care anymore. Combine that attitude with the fact that nothing happened until yesterday, since Rose's break-in, and you've got a guy who doesn't care about anything. I suppose everyone reaches this stage at some point. Maybe it's a defense mechanism. Anyway, yesterday, Wednesday, I had the day off work. My girlfriend decided she wanted to get away from everything for a while. She went to a friend's house in our same city to stay for a few days. I, on the other hand, usually relieve stress by exercising. Since I had the day off, I wanted to do something more than just lift weights, so I decided to go for a long 50-mile bike ride to the next town. It was cloudy in the morning, so I only brought a few dollars to take the bus home. Plus, AT&T had just sent me my iPhone 5, and I definitely didn't want to bring it if it rained. So, I started my trip with just my trek bike and some spare change. After about 30 miles, I rode onto a bike path that leads close to the end point. It's a long 22-mile stretch. I tried this ride once in July, and back then, the place was packed with people, hundreds of cyclists everywhere, unable to move. But this time, the path was almost deserted. The weather was getting worse. A thick fog enveloped me. I felt like I was in a wet cloud, but there was no actual rain. My shirt was soaked, visibility was very poor, but I still decided to continue. The first few miles, I started noticing benches along the side of the path, something I had never realized before. Good idea, since the path is long, people probably need to rest a bit. I kept cycling. Visibility was about 15 feet at best. About 7 miles into the path, I thought I heard laughter. I slammed on my brakes and skidded a few feet. I listened. Nothing. Yes, I know what you're thinking, and you're right. I'm an idiot, taking a long ride on a secluded path when some crazy woman is stalking me. A stereotypical horror movie plot, I know, and I regret doing what I did. But my reasoning was that no one had ever physically attacked me, so the worst-case scenario would be being offered another damn orange. I got back on my bike. After a few pedal strokes, I heard the laughter again. The laughter came from ahead. Oh well, I decided to just ride past it. The fog, as if in pity, thinned out a bit for me, giving me about 25 feet of visibility. That's when I saw someone sitting on the bench ahead. I fooled myself into thinking it was just a cyclist resting. Surely, right? You and I both know, no, it wasn't a cyclist sitting there, it was a man. He was wearing a black suit, no hat, and no cane, so I felt a little relieved. I shifted into the highest gear and started pedaling like Lance Armstrong. As I rode past him, he started laughing again. There was nothing around him, no newspaper, no phone, no bike, just sitting there, hands on his knees, not even looking at me, just staring straight ahead. And just as I passed him, he burst into crazy laughter. I was scared stiff. It was then that I noticed an orange right next to him on the bench. Then he turned his head and looked straight at me. My encounters with Rose had been terrifying, but this man, he was on a whole different level. I just kept cycling. I heard the laughter again as I sped away from him. The next 12 miles took about 4 or 5 minutes, meaning I didn't slow down at all. I reached the town where I planned to catch the bus, and another shock awaited me. I arrived at the bus stop at 4:10 p.m. The last bus left at 4:30 p.m. This bus, according to the schedule, would take me to a small town at the beginning of the trail where I would catch another bus home. When I arrived at the station, I saw the bus only had 2 bike racks, and both were already occupied. Yes, skip all the fancy descriptions. The driver said that according to regulations, bikes were not allowed inside the bus. This was the last bus, and if I wanted to get home that night, I had to cycle back to the other town before 7:00 p.m. when the last bus left. I had 2.5 hours to go 20 miles. Otherwise, I'd have to spend the night there. I only had $10 on me. So, right, go back on the trail and ride back, idiot. And good luck with that laughing old man on the trail. I wish I could say I convinced the driver to let me on. I wish I had stayed the night. Maybe tried to pay for a hotel by offering my credit card number. Maybe tried. But no, I decided to cycle, and I got what I deserved. 2 miles into the trail, I saw something on the ground about 20 feet away. I remember thinking this path was surprisingly clean, so it was odd to see litter so conspicuously. I slowed down. It was a toy soldier, quite new-looking. Perhaps some child had dropped it while cycling with their family. I continued cycling. A mile later, another thing ahead, a basketball. I stopped, picked it up, then dropped it. My eyes welled up with tears. When I was in 8th grade, my school held a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. I was incredibly excited about the event. I put together the best team I could find. If we won, we'd go to a bigger tournament and might win prize money. When we arrived at the court, we found only 2 teams registered in our age category. We were thrilled because even if we lost, we would still win some kind of prize. We lost, or rather, were crushed by the other team. But because we came in second, each of us got a $50 gift card to a store similar to Foot Locker. The whole team immediately ran to the store. My friends chose shoes and jerseys, while I chose this basketball. It was very unique, painted like a chessboard, 60 squares, 32 black and 32 white. They called me crazy for using my gift card on this ball, but I loved it, at least for a few days, until I realized the colors on the ball gave me a headache every time it spun. I angrily threw it into the river when I crossed a bridge near my house. And now, I was holding that very ball again, 5,000 miles from home, in the middle of a forest, on a trail that only I knew I would be on that day. I froze, dropped the ball, and just wanted to scream. At some point you get angry. Angry that your life isn't like others. Why can't I worry about things like whether my NFL team makes the playoffs or if I'm getting a raise? Why do I have to go through all this? What did I do wrong? But I didn't have time to reflect on my life. I needed to get out of this forest and catch the bus. I chose the latter. I continued cycling more carefully. After a few more miles, another thing, a newspaper page. It was wet from the light rain. I picked it up. It was an article about me when I first came to America. The school where I played basketball published an article about my life in the school newspaper, and now that article was in my hand. I threw it away and decided not to stop anymore. I rode past the bicycle I used to own in Bosnia, my old Iron Maiden shirt, and a family photo in a broken frame. I even rode past a dead cat that looked exactly like the cat I had when I was 15. The faster I rode, the more objects from my life appeared on the path. By now, my story is probably more unbelievable than any cheap movie you've ever seen. Feel free to express skepticism, call me a liar. If I were you, I'd do the same. I even thought this story was nonsense from the previous 3 parts. I wish I were being messed with for entertainment, but I'm not. I'm writing this seeking help, advice, to at least have my mind at peace for a minute. I sped down the trail, only about 2 miles left and I'd be out of this hellish forest. It was getting darker and the fog thicker. Then I heard laughter, but this time it was a child's laughter. Or not. I slowed down, afraid of what was to come. I saw a figure sitting on the bench ahead, the same bench the man had sat on. The laughter came again, not the malicious kind, but mischievous laughter. I guess you could call it giggling. But it wasn't a child. It was a woman. She was dressed in white. It was Rose. I slammed on the brakes so hard I was surprised I didn't fly over the handlebars. Rose was sitting there, legs crossed, looking straight ahead, not at me, and giggling. Then she turned, tilted her head, gave that terrifying smile I've described countless times, and said, "Sit down." This was the first time I was so scared that my limbs felt like jelly. For a moment. In my previous encounters with her, I was either in my own home or at least somewhere relatively safe. But this time it was in the middle of a forest, and as I typed these words, I realized how stupid I was for deciding to take this trip at such a time. Perhaps subconsciously, I wanted to see her again. To see her to end it all. I regained a little courage, got off my bike. I gently placed the bike down and noticed a photo of me with my first girlfriend lying on the path. The photo was wet and looked singed, but damn it, I couldn't stop. Now I had to talk to her. I walked closer. Rose still smiled, unmoving. "Sit down," she said in my native language, in that child's voice. "No, you've always been a stubborn boy, Milos. I'm not a boy. I don't want anything to do with you people. Why won't you leave me alone? What do you want from me?" I yelled. All the pent-up frustration poured out onto this bitch who had caused me and my girlfriend so much suffering, and it felt like a relief. "No need to yell, Milos. No need to yell." You're destroying my life. I just want you to come with me. First, tell me what you want, then I'll decide. She picked up an orange that was lying next to her and held it out in front of me. This is not your decision. Her voice shifted to a deeper, more adult tone, but still unnatural for her age. This is my life, you crazy bitch. Her smile vanished. You know, Milo's, it started a long time ago. You have no control over this. You will asterisk go. She screamed the word, will, straight into my face. I recoiled, ready to punch her. She stood up. I will fight you. I will call the police. I will. You can't do anything, she interrupted. Who do you think I am? Do you think the police can help you? Do you think your friends can help? What are you people? A cult? Do you want me as a sacrifice? She started laughing. She laughed without closing her eyes, without breaking her gaze from me. You are so foolish. Her voice shifted back to the child's voice. You have much to learn about us. Then she walked towards me. At that moment, I truly believed I was facing something not human. I admit that after returning home, calming down, and thinking logically, I still revert to the cult hypothesis, but in that moment, right there, I believed I was facing something else. I'll get others to help me. I don't know what I'm even thinking. Church, perhaps. She said in a childlike voice, as if mimicking to provoke me, You think your God will save you? Ask your priest about me. Ask, then decide. I had no idea what she was talking about, but I decided I had had enough. It was time to run. At the same time, she stepped back, sat down, and started looking at the orange. I lunged for my bike, jumped on, and started pedaling as if the devil himself was chasing me. As I rode past her, her laughter rang out wildly, still staring at the orange. I got on the damn bus. On the ride, I was a lifeless shell, and when I got home, I called the person at the police station and told him what had happened. He said he would contact the local police to check the trail. I didn't expect much. That day, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. How could she or they have gotten those items from my life that I was sure no longer existed? Was that cat really the cat I had 12 years ago? How? And what did she mean? Ask your priest? Too many questions and no answers. I was mentally exhausted. I didn't tell my girlfriend about this because I knew she might break down. Perhaps I would too. I felt like a defeated human being, tormented by something I couldn't understand. I was lost. All right, everyone, a lot has happened since my last update. Many of you have messaged me, asking if I'm okay. Some of you even sent your phone numbers and tried to contact me. I truly appreciate that. We haven't seen Rose since the last encounter. Also, we've decided to move. I found a pretty good job in the southern US, and we think getting out of here would be a good idea. Anyone in Atlanta, hit me up. My father went to see the priest who baptized me, and the story truly gets more complicated, if you can call it that. Anyway, I was baptized in a church called Ostrog in Montenegro. I don't believe in God in any way, but this church is truly amazing. It was built a long time ago. When the Ottoman Empire came to invade, people dismantled every stone and moved it up the mountain so the Ottomans couldn't reach it. It's a magnificent architectural feat. Many people of different religions, including Islam and Buddhism, also come to this church seeking spiritual help. It's the only place where I've ever felt something beyond my non-belief in reality. When I was 6, my father decided to baptize me there. My parents weren't particularly religious, but my father followed traditions, and baptizing children was one of them. He decided the baptism should take place at the most famous church in the Balkans, Ostrog. You had to book in advance, and demand was so high that I would be baptized with other children in a group baptism ceremony. When we arrived, disappointment awaited, at least for my father. I didn't care. At the entrance to the church, the priest stopped me. "Boy, you cannot enter," he said, holding out his hand to block me. In our country, priests wear long black robes and have long beards, so I stood there, blocked by someone who looked like Batman. My father stepped in front of me and asked, "What's the problem?" "Boy, I know you," the priest said to my father. "I baptized you, I recognize you." Indeed, he had baptized my father about 20 years prior. "But your son, he cannot enter here." "And why is that?" my father asked, astonished. "I cannot specify, but it is best for all of us if the boy goes elsewhere." "But why, father? Please leave. But remember this, never, never leave the boy unbaptized. You must do it." "I don't understand." You will never understand either, just do it. So my father took my hand and left, not knowing what the hell was going on. On the way home, he tried to rationalize. He thought maybe I had done something wrong, like peeing behind the church or something. That sounds like my style, but this time I didn't. When we got home, we received a call. It was from the priest. He wanted us to come back immediately. It was a 35-minute drive. My father and I were more confused than ever. When we arrived at the church, all the previous baptisms had been completed. Only the three of us remained. I have decided to baptize your son, although. Although what? My father asked curiously. I cannot tell you, but it is important that we do this quickly. So we proceeded. I walked around in a circle, and he began to read prayers, sprinkling holy water on me. I remember being bored to death right before he finished. He told us to leave and not return unless something unusual happened to me. My father was just happy it was all done. That was 20 years ago. A few days ago, my father went back there. The priest was still alive, although retired. He still lived on the church grounds. It took quite a bit of persuasion and some donations for him to agree to tell the story. I was baptized on February 13, 1992. The night before the baptism, the priest was tending to his flock of sheep. In the old days, monks raised sheep and cattle and lived primarily off them. He saw a figure in the shadows. It was strange for someone to be standing there so late, especially when visiting hours were over and all the church staff were in their quarters. "Hello, is anyone there?" the priest shouted. "Come here, Father," a calm female voice replied. The priest explained that sometimes he encountered desperate people who came seeking blessings or refuge, so he approached to see what the woman wanted. He said that as he got closer, he saw a woman in a white dress standing perfectly still. She was in the middle of the sheep, but the sheep formed a circle around her, almost keeping a safe distance. The priest asserted that he immediately felt something unholy. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice both defensive and fierce. By now, he knew he wasn't talking to a gentle visitor. Tomorrow, Father, you will meet a boy like any other child. His name is Milos. You will not baptize him." The priest told my father that he had performed several exorcisms before, but had never truly been afraid. This time, he felt unsafe. "You and your kind have no place on this holy ground." "My kind? What do you mean, Father?" "You are a demon." His voice trembled with fear. She laughed. "Demon? I know you are a man of God, but believing in demons? That requires a lot of faith, Father. I want you to leave immediately." "Listen to me, poor Father. I know who you are. I know what you think. I know you feel my power. Refuse my request and you will never sleep soundly again." Then she left. The rest of the story you already know. He refused to baptize me, then changed his mind. Apparently, he told my father that he would rather endure the torment of an unholy spirit than deny a child of God the chance to connect with Jesus. He also said that from the day he baptized me, he paid the price. Every night consecutively for 2 weeks after performing my baptism, the priest saw a woman in a white dress appear at his window. She just stood there, watching him with her head tilted to the side, no smile, just a face full of anger. He prayed a lot, but it seemed to have no effect on her. Then his sheep started dying in droves, no traces of wolves or any attacks. They just lay dead on the ground. Finally, the number of people needing exorcisms increased dramatically. He claimed this was a direct consequence of him not following the woman's orders. The priest even showed my father a video recording of an exorcism. The chapel began recording services from the mid-90s. My father said the tape was unbelievable. Apparently, a 13-year-old girl was brought to the chapel by her mother, who was crying hysterically, begging for help. The priest began the ritual, and the girl started throwing objects everywhere. The priest called 2 young men who had come to pray that day, asking them to hold the girl down, but she kept spinning in circles even with 2 grown men trying to restrain her. And just before she collapsed, she said, "You shouldn't have done that, Father." After that, the girl was cured. My father had heard enough confusing information, but he still wanted to know what this woman actually was. The priest said that initially, he thought she was a demon, but the ineffectiveness of his prayers and her ability to freely act on holy ground concerned him. Then he thought she was some form of dark magic or occult. The problem is, she still visits him every February 13th. All the livestock he keeps will die on that day. Any sick person who comes seeking healing at the church on that day will get worse. The number of people possessed dramatically and unusually increases on the 13th, and at the end of the day, she will appear at his window, no matter where he is. He tried to talk to her many times, asking what she was or where she came from, but she never answered. She never aged. The priest finally broke down to the point of giving up his work. He continued to live in the church area, but could not continue his duties. He lost his faith. He said that God should have protected him. My father thinks he might not be lucid anymore. The priest also mentioned something about Morana, said to be a goddess of death in some cultures, but I really think this man has gone mad. I assume this entire story is just the ramblings of an old man who has lost his mind. A goddess? A demon? Hard to believe. That's the disappointing story of my baptism. Since my last encounter with them, I haven't seen any of them again. I'm preparing to move, hoping that will help. I've also decided one thing: if I meet them again, I will take the orange. I can't keep living like this forever. I really can't anymore.